Good morning again, everyone. For those of you who have joined us for this panel and weren't here for the last one, my name is Chris Forrester. Welcome to Mipcom and our now twice yearly 4K sessions. We have a great panel for you this morning, looking at India. We've had a few changes in the personnel, but Rohit Jan, who is Deputy CEO at Videocon D2H in India, is going to deliver the keynote, and we thank him very, very much for joining us today. Then we'll have a panel discussion with my old friend Anil Wadhwani, who from IndianTelevision.com. Rohit, of course, will also join us. Mark Wilson Dunn, Vice President BT Media and Broadcast Enterprises, will also join us. And Mark and his BT colleagues were responsible for bringing the signals, the 4K signals from Australia for the Cricket World Cup, which made such an impact earlier this summer. And last but absolutely not least, Prashant Chotani, CEO of Travel XP, and thank you for stepping into the breach at this very short notice. He wowed us all, I think. Was it MIP TV? Yeah, with Travel XP, some fantastic footage. We can't show his footage this morning. We tried, but we can't. But next time. But thank you for coming along and join the panel. So without further ado, and to save some time, can I invite Rohit Jain, Deputy CEO of Videocon D2H, to give us an overview, please, of what's happening with Videocon and 4K.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. I have a short video before I get started, maybe just as a quick introduction to the company, and then I'll get into.
We deliver direct-to-home digital services to millions of homes all over India through a reliable backbone of people, technology, and network. We are Videocon D2H. We are a part of Videocon with interests in consumer electronics, home appliances, DTH, real estate, oil and gas, telecommunications, and general insurance. We are delivering DTH entertainment to millions of discerning consumers. We are present in all states in a country as diverse as India. Within a few years of launch, we are considered the fastest growing DTH player in India. We have invested in a scalable infrastructure that can stream services and content seamlessly. Today, we provide the widest range of channels and services with a huge bouquet of HD channels. Our installation team and after-sales team works in tandem to create a customer base whose expectations are met every time. But at the core of everything, we are an innovation-driven company. Innovation makes progress possible. It is the introduction of something new, a new idea, a new method, a new solution. At D2H, innovation is in our DNA. We continuously innovate and launch products that are appreciated by the industry and customers alike. We introduced India's first 4K Ultra HD DTH channel. And this culture of innovation has translated into recognition. We work with the best global technological partners and aggregate their inputs to come out with integrated software and hardware solutions. So, are we ready for the future? At Videocon D2H, challenges drive us towards innovation. We have always put the consumer's need ahead of technology. India is a huge market with phase 3 and 4 of cable digitization waiting to happen shortly. And we are geared up to convert this opportunity of digitizing close to 100 million homes. Today we are the most valued Indian company on NASDAQ. It is a testimony that the world sees potential that we behold. We are ready today for the coming tomorrow. We are Videocon D2H.
maybe I'll just lay down for the benefit of everybody a little bit of context of India as an economy and the pay TV market within India before I get into how 4K and some of the other innovations are emerging in the market. So, ever since in the last couple of years, there have been a number of changes that have happened in the Indian market, including notably the change of government that happened about 6-7 quarters back. And we've seen now India emerge as amongst the fastest growing economies. And that, along with the fact that if you see in terms of demographics, we're a fairly young country. So you've got about almost 600 million people who are in the age group of below 25. That's the largest pool of youth that's probably available across the world in any country today. And on the pay TV market side, you've got huge opportunity in terms of just sheer numbers. You've got almost 270 million homes. The television penetration in the country is still low. That's about 170 million. So you've still got about 100 million homes that don't have a TV, which over the next couple of decades to come, as the per capita improves, one would expect that penetration will continue to go on. And but the good news is, if you have a television in India, you typically tend to have a pay TV connection. So after US, I think for the size of this market, we are probably the second largest market in terms of pay TV penetration, with almost 150 million homes having a pay TV connection. This is in many ways, and we often get invited, especially in the US markets, as a contrary case study. Unlike a lot of the Western pay TV markets where growth is sort of tapered down, and you've got whole lot of challenges of OTT hitting the market or fat packages slimming down, India continues to be a fairly bright spot in the overall media landscape with humongous amount of growth yet to come. That, along with the fact that as a market, historically we've had poor infrastructure, and as a result of which we are a country which tends to jump technologies. So when you had telecom coming in, that just surpassed the landline over a very short period of time. We've seen the same with broadband. The broadband infrastructure historically has been very poor, with hardly 15 million connections wired to the home. But in a short span of 2 to 3 years, we've seen 3G market going up to 90 million. And the same is something we've seen with satellite TV, where cable infrastructure historically has been poor, and we've seen in a short span of a decade, satellite taking up almost 45-50% of the revenue share. And that's how in most areas as a country we will behave. We will just generally jump technology and catch up with the rest of the world rather than go through the whole evolution on its own. As a company, we were the sixth operator to launch in the satellite space. We were the last operator. Strangely enough, we are a market with 6 satellite operators, when most of the markets probably have 1 or 2. But in spite of that, we've been now for the last 4.5 years, 18 quarters or so, being the fastest growing pay TV company in India, as a result of which we've leapfrogged from being number 6 to sort of a number 2 player now. And in India as a market, there are very interesting set of regulations, unlike what you're used to say. We don't have any content exclusivity, so you don't build up artificial market shares by owning any special NFL rights or sports rights. The ceiling rates are laid down by the government in terms of the buying, so there aren't really retransmission wars that you see in other markets. And hence it becomes a market which is really led by just innovation and execution. And that's what we believe as a company we've been able to excel at, which has resulted into us being leapfrogged into being the number 2. We're now connecting about a little over 14 million homes. In a short span of 5.5 years, we are probably now among the top 7 players. in the pay TV market. We'd expect by the turn of the decade we should be probably among the top three, maybe top two. Uh, the other interesting facet about, and I mentioned the fact about demographics, is you have on one side a country that's fairly young, but parallelly it's also a country with high rates of literacy, and English being the primary mode of education. And that makes us as a country highly connected in terms of the trends worldwide. And through the right or the wrong means, Indian consumers tend to stay in tune with the global trends to a large extent. And coupled with that, of course, given this is a price sensitive market, innovation becomes critical in how do you bring those new trends at sort of affordable but mass commercial scale level. And that always helps. In the mindset, we are a sort of a innovation and maybe a cost-driven innovation market. But largely, as a market, we kind of stay more in tune with the global trends than a lot of the other Asian markets that we've seen. We've as a company gone through fairly interesting set of innovations on multiple fronts. So we are actually a pretty unique company where, as a group, we are a pay TV service provider. We manufacture set-top boxes and we manufacture televisions, and that allows us to do sort of innovation that a lot of other companies can't do. I think a lot of companies tend to talk about convergence. We are actually in a unique position where we can actually make the convergence happen. We've seen innovation at the hardware level where, for example, something like a DVR, which tends to have very high level of penetration in the Western world. In India, that's got minuscule level of penetration, given it's a costly product. The memory is expensive. And one of the things that we innovated is allow the customer to put his external drive or a pen drive onto the set-top box and convert that into a recorder. Or for that matter, a small innovation of turning a remote control into a sort of a Wi-Fi headset unit where you could just plug in your headset into the remote itself and provide a jack for it. We actually interestingly did this innovation during the World Cup last year, Soccer World Cup. And the Soccer World Cup was at very odd hours for India. It was midnight. And most countries in our experience, including India, tend to have their televisions in their bedrooms. And we reckon we probably saved some divorces by that innovation. You could just put your jack in the remote and quietly watch a match. The viewing is another important part of the innovation. And as customers continue to buy larger screen, as customers continue to invest into better sound systems, as a platform, a key part of our responsibility is also to continue to bring cutting edge viewing experience. And just to give you a background, about 10 years back, the largest percentage of televisions that sold in India, maybe about 95%, used to be the old box CRT TVs, the tube TVs. Even till 10 years back, that was largely what was sold. Compared to that, last year, the largest television that sold was a 42-inch LED versus a 21-inch tube TV 10 years back. Now, that's the sort of customer upgradation that we've seen in terms of the hardware at home. And with larger televisions with better screens, there's obviously more and more demand for better content being relayed to them. We've seen this, we've seen, experienced and lived this in the last 4 or 5 years by high definition. So 4 or 5 years back, when high definition came into India, this was a fairly innovative and expensive product, much like the whole conversation we're doing around 4K today. And we've seen that sort of picking up quite rapidly with almost close to 4 to 5 million homes having high definition today. And that number one might expect could start hitting 30 to 40 million in a decade's time, maybe by the turn of this decade. 4K is, in our experience, exactly where high definition was 4 5 years back. It again has the same set of challenges that we've seen 4 5 years back. There's dearth of content. There's 5 years back, I remember when we launched high definition, we launched with some clippings. Then it started with few odd channels. I think we had about 3 4 channels in the year one. As I speak today, we have close to 50 channels. My expectation is over the next 18 to 24 months that could go up to starting to touch 100. And we see the same situation in 4K today. There's dearth of hardware, of set-top boxes in home to be able to support that, and there's certainly dearth of content around that. And it doesn't help the fact that it's a bandwidth guzzler. It just eats up bandwidth equal to almost 25 channels, and that's a big limitation as well. But having said that, it's an area we've invested quite heavily into. One of the things that we've done is actually created our own 4K channel. Given there is no 4K channel, and in the short to medium term, it's unlikely that you'll have multiple 4K channels running given the bandwidth demand and the content availability. So we created our own 4K channel that we take to the customers. It's sort of a mixed lifestyle channel which has a mix of sports. So the Soccer World Cup last year had few matches towards the end that were shot in 4K. The Cricket World Cup this year had some matches in 4K. I'd expect some amount of content in the Olympics next year to be shot in 4K. So you'll have these sort of major sporting events. Every 1 year, 2 year, there'll be 1 or 2 major sporting events that'll have 4K content. The Hollywood studios are upgrading to providing the movie library in 4K, the new one certainly. We are tying up with the studios to bring some of those movies to the customer. And then there's some amount of factual content that's available in 4K. At this stage, this is sort of still an investing, testing the water phase, and we continue to sort of invest into it. We probably have 25-30 hours of content library that we're showing to the customer. Hopefully, in a short period of time, one is able to take that to a 200 to 300 hours sort of library to make it more meaningful. But it's only over the next 1 or 2 years one would know whether it goes the high definition way, where it becomes really mass commercially viable thing, or it goes the 3D way. I don't know what have been the experiences in some of the other markets. In our experience, 3D as a home product never took off. But as a platform, I don't think we have much of a choice but to make sure we bring the best and the most cutting edge technology and viewing experience to the customer. At this point, we are the only platform that provide a 4K service in India, and there are hardly few thousand customers. Compared to the 14 million homes that we're connecting today, that's not even scratching the surface, especially for the kind of investment that's going into it. But we're quite hopeful about this area. We've seen viewing experience is an integral part of evolution. It's a very critical part. We're quite happy with the fact, in fact, the bigger content that drives Indian market tends to be the local language. And for instance, this weekend we are actually showcasing some of the Indian blockbuster movies on 4K. That's the first step for the market, and that generally tends to be a good sign. If you're able to bring the local content that's sort of massy to the customer, that generally tends to trigger some sort of fast tracking the whole evolution. So we're quite hopeful how that drives that. We're also seeing parallelly interesting trends on the hardware side, because the content and the hardware is very sort of integrally married to each other. On all the three sides, the platform, the content producer, as well as the hardware. The hardware being the television. And in India, the quarter three or the calendar year quarter four tends to be the biggest festival quarter. And from the hardware side, that generally is a quarter that kind of sets the trend for the year. Much like, I'm assuming it's the Christmas for the year, so so on and so forth. And we saw 4K sort of take off last year for the first time, and you had about 100,000 odd consumers who might have bought a 4K TV at home. That's not a lot, given as a country we sell 15 million televisions each year. But it was an interesting start with 100,000 people owning a 4K TV. And one of the things we're going to be watching out is the Q4 of this year, which is just around the corner, and see what sort of trend that sets. Our expectation is people will continue to invest into larger screens. We expect that 42-inch norm would gradually turn into 46 and eventually a 55, 65. Larger screen obviously makes the experience that much more clearer. One of the challenges of not having the right hardware is there's very little that a customer can distinguish. It's very difficult to, on an old box CRT TV, there's actually no difference between a standard definition or a high definition or 4K for that matter. So the hardware side is going to be at the forefront of this whole experimentation. And we expect some of that to get fast forwarded again this festival period. But I mean, look, we've seen a lot of investment go into high definition to come to a point today in 4-5 years where we believe this is now a sort of a mass product, where we believe the 4 million homes of high definition have a potential to go to 40 million. 4K is now sort of the investment area we need to take on. If that over the next 2-3 years start to give back results, that will be a big driver on ARPU, that will be a big driver on retention, that will be a big driver on experience, that will be a big driver on being different from OTT. A lot of the stuff is better delivered through traditional sort of pay systems. So this is an area we continue to invest into. And hopefully there are more people who are producing content around 4K. Our expectation is in many cases, especially the studios, shooting in the 4K or the 6K camera would become the norm, and people would hopefully downgrade in order to provide the normal 2K. But I think the original shoot itself would upgrade in at least some of the genres to 4K. And as we'll see, I think some level of mass content and some level of mass penetration of hardware. This is an area we do expect to see growth. That's pretty much.
We all know that ARPU in India is a real problem. Typically now, what might one of your customers be paying in terms of ARPU per month?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail. The ARPU is the real issue in India. The average ARPU tends to be in the range of $3 to $4. But the good news is that's not a reflection of capacity to pay. That's just a reflection of legacy issues we've had over the last 3 decades of piracy and underreporting, and platforms continuing to grow top line just by higher and higher levels of underreporting.
Yes.
And as a country, we passed a law a few years back of converting the whole country into digital in a phased manner. And over the next 3-4 years, I think as the market becomes transparent and the whole element of underreporting goes away, you'd expect the ARPUs to catch up. So, I mean, if we look at any of the sort of similar Asian economies, whether it's Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Sri Lanka, these are all $8 to $14 economies.
Yes.
And in sort of medium to long term, maybe over the next 5-7 years, you'd expect India to get to 6 to 8 levels. Mind you, we're never going to be a $100 market, and we don't need to be.
Chris, can I say something?
Yeah, Adil, come in.
Yeah. See, what he should be looking at is what gives me a lot of heart is the 5 to 6 million HD customers, which would be paying you about somewhere around in the region of $10.
Yeah.
Around average $10. So that's a lot of people. 4 million people paying you $10 per month. So let's not look at the rest of the ecosystem which yet has to be harvested. They're already making money on the high net worth customers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what premium are you inviting your new subscribers to UHD to pay? How much extra are they paying for the UHD channel?
For the 4K?
Yeah.
Well, 4K, and that's the tricky part right now. Like I said, there are hardly a few thousand customers at this point, given the lack of content and penetration. So we actually don't charge anything at this point.
So it's a bonus.
It's a bonus. It's an area that you have to invest into to come to a certain scale.
Now, I know from the retail side, the Sonys and the LGs and the Samsungs, they are promoting very heavily their sets on a global scale. India is no exception. The consumer is buying into these sets. Everywhere else, is the consumer buying into these UHD 4K sets in India, to the best of your knowledge?
They are, and that's what said that we've seen about 100,000 sets being sold so far.
Yeah.
But we would expect that to get fast forwarded quite a lot this year.
Yeah.
But there are two things in that. One, you need a whole lot of more people to sort of imbibe and start buying into 4K. If there are 15 million televisions selling, you need at least 1 to 2 million sets being sold, which are 4K. Because remember, the actual percentage of people who are target audience within that is a fraction. When it comes to hardware, universally, a lot of people tend to buy a high-end TV just because they want to buy the latest thing.
Yes.
Not because they necessarily get the feature out of that. So those people probably don't even know what 4K is and they have a 4K TV. They'll probably just walk in to buy the latest thing. So you need a large audience to have a genuine target market within that.
One of the principal motivators, we all expect to be the principal motivators, is sport. And in India, that means cricket. There's not a lot of interest in other sports, but I put it that way. Cricket dominates. Let me bring Mark in, Mark Wilson-Dunn from BT Media and Broadcast. Mark, you and your team were responsible for bringing that cricket across from Australia last year. First of all, what were the challenges? What were the opportunities? What did you learn as a result of that exercise?
Wow, what a wide-ranging question. We've been playing with 4K for about 4 years, I guess. Speculatively, on the thought that, this is going to happen, let's get ourselves ready for it. We did a number of firsts. So we did a rugby game in 4K to IDC.
Right. Yeah.
We did a Manchester United game. It was a testimonial game for Rio Ferdinand. So we learned a little bit about filming, the different ways of filming. Cricket for us was a brand new one. And so, working with our colleagues at Star TV, who were fantastic throughout the whole experience, we took on board the entire value chain. So my primary business is carrying channels internationally. So we carry about 100 TV channels out of India for distribution around the world. So getting back into production as well was a challenge. So we worked with NEP and with Sydney Teleport, because obviously we're bringing these games back from Australia to India and then to a DTH platform to 10,000 real-life consumers. So beyond a test. And in fact, I was talking to the cricket director at NEP the other day, and he actually started to shoot cricket in a different way during the first match. And this is an experienced guy who shoots cricket for a living. And all of a sudden he realised that with the extra clarity of 4K, he could take one pan shot of the entire wicket rather than having the bowler focused or the batsman focused. Yeah. Because you still got that clarity on the entire pitch. And people were commenting, you can see the dust coming up when the ball hit. So even that, when you've got an experienced production company like NEP, who are saying, you know what, we're learning a new way to film. Yeah. Other challenges, you're quite right, there is a bandwidth consideration. One of the reasons that we were so keen to get in front of 4K was to make sure that the network that we built around the world was suitable for it. Yeah. Actually it is. And we haven't found the bandwidth implications to be that big from a distribution perspective, but I know that from a broadband perspective, it's huge.
Yeah, a real challenge.
And again, you know, just a quick shout out to another part of BT, my customer, which is BT Sport, who have now launched a full-time UHD channel in the UK for football and other things as well coming up. So that was a challenge as well. So we all know from a technology perspective, HEVC encoders are coming, and they've been coming, and they've been coming, but we're still bolting 4 encoders together and quadding the picture. That's not ideal. The sooner we can get to uncompressed video with the right bandwidths, the better, because it's going to be a more impactful experience. Consumer take-up is one. I mean, we were laughing about 3D earlier. You're looking at the only person in the world who started a 3D company. So take financial advice off me anytime. 3D was absolutely killed by the studios, not by customer demand. Yeah, I mean, wearing the glasses was an awkward thing.
Yeah.
But the studios didn't want to do the conversion, because the purists said, well, it's not right. I think 4K is very different. 4K for me is a natural evolution. It's the difference between black and white TV in the corner and the future. So I have every confidence that 4K will take off. The consumer monetization model, which is where you are absolutely on the front line of it, that's going to be the tricky one. And also the pace of change, because I suspect as standards emerge, the 4K panels which are out there today won't be the 4K panels which are supporting high dynamic range and wider colour gamuts. So you don't want to invest, well, I wouldn't want to invest in a new television now at, I don't know, £800 UK, and then find next year I need something quite different.
Can I step in?
Ideal, yes.
Yeah, see, I'm very hopeful of 4K also, because we've got Reliance Jio coming up. They've got a FTH infrastructure coming up, so they're really gearing up to deliver 100 Mbps pipes to the consumer home, and they've got a play in place wherein they'll have Reliance. They'll have 2 services, which is Jio Play and Jio On Demand. So they're looking at content on both these pipes, which don't put onto that. So we're talking to studios, and because they're well connected in terms of as a broadband deliverer, there could be some. I mean, I perceive that it'll really happen. And as far as Star is concerned, and Tata Sky, well, Tata Sky did try 4K, and they switched it off immediately after the World Cup was over. But we have the T20 World Cup coming up, and we do expect at least that Star has been at the forefront of pushing forward technology. So we expect some matches of the T20 World Cup, which is being done in India, without the bandwidth constraints that you face from Australia. Some of the matches would be telecast in 4K, and that would give some impetus to the to 4K. Of course, prices of TV sets are coming down, which is making it that much more affordable. Then you have the 8K debate. We won't get into that, but let's stick with 4K. So, and we have a good audience out there. So, around 4 million guys who are taking HD services, which is hopeful. So there is ARPU there for those 4 million people, and that's good enough. And then you've got producers like Prashant Chotani, who's been plowing away like a lone soldier, shooting his documentaries, shooting his travel footage, travel shows in 4K. So there are people out there who are willing to take the plunge, and that's why I'm hopeful. It won't take off like SD and HD has right now, but there is time. Let's say in the next 2 years, it's going to be pretty good.
Come to Mark first, then I'll come to you back.
So just to be clear on the bandwidth, the kind of cross-continental bandwidth, the overhead is probably only a bit more than HD. It's only when you come to that consumer delivery that it's kind of chokes. But actually, in terms of shipping continental traffic, we're fine. We're good.
Okay. One more thing is that in India we have a tremendous problem on transponder shortages. They have to go through a government-set Antrix body, and Tata Sky is simply constrained. They have to switch it off because they have to make way for other services, the 4K channel. So it will come off once the World Cup comes up again. I'm hopeful of that at least.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're absolutely right. From my background, I'm totally in favour of satellite, but as a pure delivery mechanism, I'm massively suspicious of cable delivered services that promise 100 meg and more, because I have 100 meg, and believe me, it can't cope with HD, let alone 4K. I mean, continually breaks down. So I'm more than happy to believe the hype and the propaganda, but I want to see them deliver um, these sort of services, because at the moment they're not.
But there's hope for the producers, at least. If Reliance picks up stuff or content, there's hope for the producers.
Absolutely.
That's good. I mean, as far as the consumer is concerned, they'll have to work on getting the experience better. That's all from the broadband delivery side.
Prashant, for those who were not here when you made a presentation back in the spring, tell us a little as to what Travel XP is doing and where you're investing real money.
We started India's first HD channel in 2011, and that time HD was new. Today India has about 800 channels and only 40 or 50 of them are HD, so that's 5%. So I think when 4K takes up, it will be again 5% of HD channels in 2025. You will see that in 2025, there are going to be 825 channels in 4K all around the globe, is what is projected. So we actually produce all our content. We are a broadcast company in India, and we have filmed more than 500 hours of HD content. And before the last MIP, this February, we shifted our entire production line to 4K. We don't film HD at all. Since this February, we have stopped filming HD completely. So we are a full 4K production company, and we use Sony F5 cameras, which are used to produce feature films. And there are many lower-end 4K equipment available, but that's not delivering the color gamut that you spoke of. I don't think bandwidth is a constraint. Now, if 4K is given free, that's another challenge. I don't think in India, if you give anything free, then it's very difficult to charge. So that's my
model. Yeah.
So that's my worry. So
change that model quickly. Yeah, before people get too used.
Renewals coming up in February.
So I am checking my bank balances every day. Since the time I knew they're not charging anything.
They're renewing their customers in January and February. That's when the renewal comes up for the 4K services.
As we speak, we have filmed, we have 50 hours of global travel footage in production. And we are looking to launch our own 4K global television channel by April 2016.
Right.
And
starting in India and then
worldwide.
Out.
It will be globally first, and India, it depends on whether they are willing to allocate more.
Give you a few rupees. Exactly.
And as you said, Reliance Jio, yes, they're talking to us, and we are there on board on their 4K service, which is going to launch, both in the FTHH and even on the Geo Play service.
Yeah.
And they are pretty aggressive on. They are very aggressive on acquisition. They are very aggressive on investments in technology, and they are saying that 4K is going to be the changer as far as their entry into the cable TV space is going to be concerned. So I see the panel size. We were talking of shifting panel sizes. It's not about sizes. It's not about ARPU. It's about shifting the entire production line to 4K. What happened when we changed from SD to HD? 80% of our production workflow remained the same. We just changed 20. The challenge in 4K is that you have to change completely, right from post-production to cameras to lenses to everything.
Yeah.
So we are actually getting into a reinvestment mode, and the time to produce content is increasing because of the focus situation which you just spoke. It is it's very easy to. We were unable to push the footage now, but the footage that we saw last time, for the first time we saw on such big screen in Web TV. So we realized, oh, this is not in focus, that is not in focus, that is not in focus. And in 4K, somebody is watching sometimes here, sometimes there. So you are actually consuming different part of the screen when you're watching 4K. Is one of the learnings that we took away at the Web TV panel discussion. So we feel that sports and factual panoramic or the travel content are going to be the key drivers, and that is why we have started investing early since February in 4K.
Prashant, tell me, the Sony cameras are capable of capturing high dynamic range. Are you deliberately engaging that technology? Are you using high dynamic range in your footage?
We are filming in RAW. So
okay, raw, so it's all there.
It's all there.
Yeah.
So we are, from day one, we have decided that we will film RAW, and we are filming RAW, down converting into HD to put it on our HD channels.
Yes.
because our HD channels still exist and they are being distributed in 30 million homes worldwide as of now across 5 continents. So we down convert all our 4K footage to HD, and that is how we are playing. But we are very hopefully this Mipcom will announce some deals on 4K on a major distribution platform in the Middle East.
Oh, that's interesting. That's probably Orbit Showtime, and he made a similar statement. He made a similar statement at IBC 2 weeks ago that they would embrace. I'm guessing here. I'm an intelligent observer, shall I say? Mark, the complaint that one gets, or the observation that one gets, is that it isn't just capturing the content. I mean, that's headache enough. But then it's the complete studio chain. From your experience, from your knowledge, and I know you're not looking after this on a day-to-day basis, but from what you understand, are these problems being solved?
They are being solved, but they're being solved within the normal life cycle of studio refreshes or whatever. So my colleagues at BT Sport, because they were fortunate enough to have to build a studio, I think 2 years ago when they first got the Premiership rights, they could see in the near future 4K was there, so everything was built to be 4K ready. If you've got an existing studio, then to your point, yeah, you're starting again really with production workflows. And actually, it's a great opportunity to change the old existing workflows from a production and post perspective. Because I mean, I think probably 3 years ago we would have been having a conversation about how workflow is changing from tape-based to digital.
Yes.
And it's here now, right? So the DPP have kind of made it happen in the UK. The states have moved towards it. This is a great opportunity to kind of go, okay, let's change the whole thing, make the whole workflow from camera to screen a lot more flexible. And from a sports perspective, which is I think the main driver for 4K at the moment, it's a great opportunity to move to remote production as well.
Sure. Rohit, to what extent have you been able to future-proof? I mean, nothing is ever future-proof, but to what extent are you able to build in the robustness to your systems so that it isn't just transmission over satellite, it is also transmission over broadband, and it is transmission over wireless, and it does go to tablet, and it does go to a smartphone. To what extent are you able to do this today?
We are obviously a satellite company, but one of the things that we're investing heavily into is also TV everywhere.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, at least from a 4K point of view, or a lot of the non-linear content that we buy, that's inside, essentially all VOD at this point. And wherever we are getting into VOD content, whether that's for 4K or any other genre, we're getting those rights for television as well as for TV everywhere.
Yes.
We're looking at providing that on people's tablets and subscribers to view it in any devices as well. But look, our view, however, is when it will come to something specifically like 4K, the experience of that is best if you see it on a larger screen.
Yes.
These are not your small device sort of, that investment is not done for the small devices. The small device is more for the convenience of just being able to catch up with your content. But if you want, if you're inside your home, it's your large screen experience. The small screen is only convenience when you're outside your home.
Yeah, I might, if we had more time, I might debate that with you, because I've seen 4K and 8K to 10-inch tablets, and it's absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning.
So all of this is in the context of broadband in each market?
Well, yeah, sometimes these were played out, shall I say, with very large cables going into the tablet.
Correct.
But nevertheless, it can look good. And these problems will be overcome. The challenges will be removed year by year. I very much want to give our audience a chance to put questions to you. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions for this expert panel? Yes, in the front row.
Hi, this is Siddharth. I'm a journalist from India. So this question is to Rohit. Basically, you spoke about how there will be a lot more investment in hardware and size of screens increasing. What I primarily believe is the youngsters of today, like take my example, I like to do a lot more of catch-up content. I do a lot of my viewing on my mobile phone, on my laptop, and such sort of screens. And it doesn't really matter whether the screen is small or big, like he mentioned. If the quality is really good, the content is going to be consumed. So speaking on those lines, where do you think the content creators like Mr. Prashant here are going to be investing a lot more in creating 4K content so that players like you can actually stay relevant in the market and can actually kind of re-innovate and keep innovating, like is your brand promise?
Good question. Good
So-
question.
Two parts to that. Fortunately, any of us sitting in conferences like this are by no remote measure sort of representation of the Indian consumer. The Indian consumer is not the way you and I consume data. We are all sitting here, all of us sitting here are outliers. Remember, pay TV in India is $3 and you get, 500 channels for that? When you're watching content on your mobile, you're paying $2 per GB. So if you were to watch one movie, you'll eat up more bandwidth and you'll be paying more than what a traditional pay TV guy pays. So for a very long time to come, for at least the next 5 to 10 years, the mass market would lie in linear TV in India. We're absolutely sure about that.
No, if you, I wanted to address this question before.
But the second part is to say, however, that doesn't mean that we don't make content relevant from multiple mediums.
Right.
And as platform, we need to continue to invest into making sure TV everywhere, OTT, VOD kind of services are available. Because there will be a day and age for those services, and they will be viable business model. But that doesn't mean it's a threat or it doesn't cannibalize the growth in your traditional market.
According to me, our content consumption time has increased. We used to spend 2 hours on television, now we are spending 4 hours on television, 2 hours on the mobile phone. What has led to 4K is the answer to the same premise that people were trying to shift on smaller screens and the television manufacturers wanted them to come back on bigger screens. So as you said, 42 is the new 21 in India. 49 is going to be the new 21 this year because you can get a 4K TV in $600 in India today. $600. That's what Micromax and all are now selling this Diwali. That's damn cheap. So what is going to happen is that sampling is going to happen on mobile. Catch up, how much can you catch up and how much can you hold? And then there will be one study that watching too much TV on mobile phones will bring to this disease, that disease, and you will go back with your remotes.
Yeah, just to add, so our take on catch-up is completely different. Catch-up is to do with, when television came into India, given you're from India, you'll be able to relate. And I don't know how this worked out in other parts of the world. When television came into India, it only was a reflection of whatever was available in movies. So it started with just the songs and the movies. And the same is happening with catch-up today. Catch-up is right now become just an extension of television content. The real answer to catch-up lies in creating an ecosystem that creates content tailor-made for that. Not just an extension of what is available on the channels today.
I was just going to make the same point actually, which is, I've got a consumer panel at home, so I've got 4 daughters between the age of 10 and 22. So that's my kind of litmus test all the time, yeah. And what I've observed, I think, is exactly what you just said, which is our viewing time has changed because it's a lifestyle choice. So we're busier, and particularly as younger years, more going on. TV watching becomes something which is much more convenient to do because you're stuck on a train or you're outside an office and you've got it on the screen there and then. What people do still tend to do, and I agree with you, is they still gravitate. So if you're a sports fan, which I am, I'll watch it on the biggest possible device that I can get my hands on. So if I've got an iPhone and an iPad, it'll be the pad. If I'm within reaching distance of a 55-inch screen, it's going to be that one. The other thing we haven't talked about very much today, I think it was mentioned once, is the power of sound, audio. And a kind of a Dolby Atmos, I'm not advertising for them, that kind of 22 dot whatever sound experience actually contributes double figures to your viewing experience, which sounds a bit bonkers, but it does. So it's what kind of television do you want to consume? And you're absolutely right. There's agencies in Hollywood now which are owned by movie stars who are now starting to shoot 15-minute drama series. So 30 minutes is great on the TV, but 15 minutes is ideal for your phone. So they're now starting to produce content which is actually tailored for a mobile phone or a portable device market, which I think is again accretive to the whole debate.
Yeah, going along with his Ultra HD said some pricing is going down. Then there is a promise of India getting digitized fully. The Prime Minister has been going all over the world and trying to garner interest in helping digitize the whole of India. So I believe while satellite television will be one of the mediums, but I know you're a doubting Thomas, but I expect broadband to really help in the spread of 4K television and offer him a revenue stream possibly as compared to what he's having currently. Yeah. Because unless bandwidth constraints on satellite go away in India, Tata Sky has 12 transponders. This guy has enough transponders, but if he wants to run a 4K, he wants to run 3 4K channels, he can't. Inside TV is launching in India very soon. They're making a big debut out here. And it's being distributed in India by independent television, Kartika Sharma now. Will he get a channel from this guy without having to pay huge sums of money for carriage? He doesn't, he'd rather use it for some other channel.
Exactly. No, it's a problem. We had a conference in London last week where we had the CEO of RETRA, the Retail Trades Association, and he said he recognized that the prices are coming down, and that's bad news for him and his retailers. But he said, on the other hand, the sets are so beautiful. He is now making more. His members are making more money selling a new table for the set, selling a sound bar for the set, selling the installation, putting on the wall if necessary, and making a good job of that. So believe me, they're welcoming 4K with open arms, even though the obvious margins are not huge.
Yeah, there was another discussion in this year's IBC. I was speaking to the broadcasters. They said the broadcast community is moving more towards HD DVR. I'd like to know more about that from you.
Oh, that's for another session. But I mean there is some thought towards that. But I think Europe. Well, we'll hear at 2:00 from Hans Hoffman. He'll give us an update as to what the European view is. Any more questions for these experts? Yes, please, Giuliano Beretta. Giuliano, borrow a mic. Yeah.
Sorry. Do you think that in case of you're going to 4K, 4K will be more expensive, of course, the device. You go to 42, 49 inches, maybe even more. That the people that will buy those products will be maybe more wealthy and often more sophisticated in their taste. So that maybe you have to get 2 types of production for more documentaries, for instance, even operas. We make operas, by the way, if you need it. You know, my publicity page, TBW, you can see outside. So, and second question, I agree with you totally that for sport, you need a really big screen because we were watching these days the rugby championship. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I understand.
No,
I'm sorry about that. Yes.
Just a second. I'm perfectly happy with the status.
Yes.
Because I'm Welsh.
Yes, but I recognize him. That he was not very, very happy about it. So with the sport, I wish I had a 4K. I have a 4K screen, but it was not transmitted in 4K. So my ideal distance was only 1.5 meters. While there, 3 meters. While there, I could have been 1.5 meters with my 80 inches. And but I would have liked to have a 4K because some of the action in rugby, if you don't have a very high definition, you cannot see them.
It's a great observation. When we did our test broadcast of the rugby, we did find one challenge which we didn't expect was that the clarity was so good you could actually read what people were tapping into their iPads in the crowd. I think there's probably a data protection issue around that one. But rugby is an ideal sport for it because of the kind of action that it is. And I was just reflecting, Chris, actually, that the last time you and I sat on a panel or sat together was in London about 6-9 months ago.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
With a load of guys who run television companies. And if you remember, at the end of it, we had that kind of wrap-up of, do you think 4K is going to take off quickly? And I think I was the only one around the table who was, because I had some insider knowledge of, it's going to happen really quickly. And everybody else going, no, I don't think so. And if you were here for the session this morning, the Japanese session, you saw a chart up on the wall, which has got dozens and dozens of 4K channels now launched in that short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're on the crest of a, crest of a wave, tip of an avalanche, whatever. It is going to happen. So, to your point, I think you're going to see rugby and football a lot more in that standard.
When we regather tomorrow for the high dynamic range panel, which is a nice free ranging panel where we will be showing HDR content, we'll see footage from the BBC, mostly test footage, but including some stuff which I didn't realize they were test shooting for those of you from us from the UK, the Edinburgh military tattoo, okay, shot in 4K HDR. Believe me, it is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And these are shot at night, obviously using floodlights and spotlights, but absolutely stunning, compelling television. Just seeing soldiers march up and down, it's wonderful.
But just to answer that more from an Indian context. So, sophisticated can be a confusing word. We do expect most of the people who will imbibe into 4K to be well-to-do people. But so there's a sort of a divide between what kind of content is better consumed on 4K and what sort of content is monetizable. So obviously it's sports, and it doesn't help the fact that India continues to be, as far as monetization is concerned, single dimension on sports. It's largely the sports in India starts and ends with cricket. There is significant investment in other sports, but hands down, number 1 to 10 ranking would be cricket. It's movies, and we expect that to be a big driver of monetization. It's factual content, and that looks fantastic on 4K. Unfortunately, in a market like India, that's limited. That has limitation in the inability to monetize. And that's I think in a market like India, for some time, it might be useful to have sort of a combined lifestyle channel where you have a bit of each of these. The viability of any of them standalone currently might not exist.
But that's only to reflect then how HD took off. I can remember when HD was a 2-hour, 3-hour programming block each night of the week with a very high rotation. 3D was exactly the same.
Well, I remember 3D on Sky. You could watch Riverdance every night. Trust me, I did.
See, the rotational format killed 3D.
Yeah.
HD was never rotational. HD came as a singular channel, and it came, and it's there. So if you do rotational stuff, I think that's a serious
problem.
We need to learn from 3D because 3D was rotational and it didn't work because people want to consume one style of content. If there are too many people watching cricket, there are many people watching factual. There are some people watching opera. So there is an audience for that kind of content is not relevant here. It's the experience. So if I'm watching a sports channel, I don't want in between a sports channel and a Bollywood movie to start.
Yes, yeah.
See, and then let's look at India. We're talking specifically about India. You're looking at about 1 million to 2 to 4 million customers of 4K in the next 5 years or 6 years. 2 years. You're that optimistic? Thanks to Reliance to you or thanks to the satellite? Thanks to who?
You see, in 2 years we will be there. What numbers you are saying?
Oh, fantastic. So that's optimism for you to close the panel, Chris.
The reason being that CRT TVs used to last 15 years. The LCD and LED panels are only living 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So your replacement cycle is very short in terms of these panels. My CRT TV still works, which I bought when I was very, very young. Not I am too old today, but when I was too young, that TV still works. But I have changed 5 LED TVs or LCD TVs in my post CRT life. So I see that panel changes will happen very fast, and the numbers what you're saying will reach there in 2 years' time.
No, I'm talking about paying, not free.
Everybody is paying. Free or pay is your mindset.
So you're not unhappy with Rohit not paying you, right? You were complaining earlier.
Let's go along the panel. A final and a straightforward question for me, starting with you, Anil. 5 years from now in India, how many different 4K channels will there be on air?
Okay, you're beginning with Rohit or beginning with me? Okay.
Begin with you.
Okay.
Because he dictates how much time.
No, I see about maximum of about 4 channels.
Okay.
That's it.
Prashant, let's
5 years from now, I think it will be 7 to 10.
7 to 10. Mark, you're an outside, honest broker, but you know what the likes of Disney could do, what the likes of Nat Geo could do. I don't say you know what they will do, but how many channels could you see in India, given that there are now, between 50 and 70 and moving towards 100 HD channels?
So, look, I'm still wearing the red rose of England, so I'm an eternal optimist. I think you're going to be looking at 20. I do think you're looking at 20, because what you're going to have is you're going to have sports channels, and Star have started it. You're going to have sports channels jumping on. You've got the cricket. You've got all the other sports, which are both regional and international.
Yes.
And with my business, what I've noticed, the reason I do so much business with India is because not only is it the fastest growth for us in TV, it's that 100 channels that I bring out of India for distribution elsewhere.
Absolutely.
5 years.
I think 20. I think 20. I really do feel, and I know that the industry has been kind of quite pessimistic about this, or conservative. I think what we've seen in the last 6 months shows the pace of change.
Rohit, now you control that pipe, you control that bandwidth. First of all, could you get transponder capacity for that number of channels, even if they did come to fruition?
I think for a moment, let's forget about the transponder capacity. Let's assume there will be technology evolution to be able to compress that better.
Yeah.
But look, we are a platform. Our job is not to be inward thinking company. It's not our job to create Excel sheets and start putting numbers at this stage. We are happy to just continue to invest. This is at a very, very infancy stage. I for sure don't have any of the insights that these guys have. We want to continue to invest. We might look, move too ahead of ourselves by putting numbers at this stage.
Yes.
And then, in stage of desperation or something, kill the whole opportunity. Have we done enough so far in terms of volume of content, number of customers sampling it? We haven't. Over the next 1 or 2 years, I don't know where are these 4 million customers coming from. Over the next 1-2 years, I think we'll be in a good shape if we just continue to provide good content, provide good sampling experiences, hear back from the customer the experiences. If look, there's going to be enough content and good customer feedback. Number of channels is only a number, then it'll be 10, 20, 40, the numbers will shoot up. If there's good supply of content and good demand, the numbers will automatically fall into place.
That's the very sensible, very prudent voice of a quoted company deputy CEO. And I must thank him and the other members of the panel for an excellent discussion. Thank you very much, all of you.